Your mind is the reason you have won. The speed, the analysis, the way you see 3 moves ahead. It builds everything that you have. And it's the same mind that won't let you sleep. So let me show you what's actually happening in there, the mechanism. Why a high-performing brain gets stuck on the on position, and what the research says about switching it off. Stay with me to the end. The part most people get backwards is the part that you have been told to do every single day. So picture your own day for a second. You finish something that mattered, a deal, a case, a launch. For about an hour, you feel it, and then your mind is already 3 problems ahead. You lie down at night, your body is tired, your mind is wired. You replay one conversation after another. You rehearse tomorrow. You check your phone one more time. And here's the quiet part nobody says out loud. You have started to wonder if the thing that got you here, the mind that never stops, is the same thing now wearing you down. I'll be honest about why this isn't theory for me. The people I treat aren't falling apart. They are the opposite. They are the capable ones, the ones everyone else leans on. And almost all of them tell me the same thing. The moment they stop moving, the mind switches on. And it doesn't replay the wins. It goes hunting down the next threat. I've watched brilliant people, really brilliant people, stay busy for years just so that they are never alone with their own thoughts. So, if that's you, hear this clearly. It's not a willpower problem. You don't relax badly. This is machinery. And once you see how the machine works, you stop blaming your character for what is really a wiring issue. So, 3 things on this video. Let's go. 1. The exact brain network that switches on the moment you stop, and why, in someone like you, it ruminates instead of resting. 2. Why hitting the goal feels like nothing. There's a chemical reason this keeps happening to you, no matter how big the win. 3. The one I want you to wait for. The mental habit you trust most, picturing the win, keeping your eye on the prize, and why this might be a trap, as research has found. But let's start with what happens the second you try to switch off. There's a network in your brain called the default mode network. It was identified and named by the neurologist Marcus Rachel and his colleagues in a foundational paper from 2001. The way they found it tells you everything. This network gets more active when you're at rest, when you are not focusing on anything outside of you. And it goes quiet the second you log onto a task, onto a hard task. Now, think this through in your own life. When you are on in a meeting, in the operation, closing the deal, you feel fine, sharp, clear, but it's when you stop that the noise starts. That's not a coincidence. That's this network coming online. So, what does it do? It handles thinking about yourself, about your past, about your future. It's the seat of reflection and planning. It's useful equipment, but here's the catch, and it matters coming from me as a psychiatrist. This is neutral machinery. It doesn't care if it makes you feel good or bad. The same network that lets you plan a future, when it loops on yourself as a threat, drives rumination. The sticky, repetitive worry we see in anxiety and depression. And high performers fall into this trap in a very specific way. You have spent your whole life using your mind as a tool. Analyze, you solve, you optimize. So when the mind turns on at rest, you do the only thing you know how to do. You point it at yourself like a problem to solve. You analyze the conversation. You audit the decision. You run the worst case scenario. The same horsepower that built your career gets aimed inward, and it won't shut off because solving is what it's for. Your best asset becomes your worst enemy on the same circuit. So, my brain never shuts off isn't a flaw in you. It's a high-performance system that never had an off switch installed. One thing you can do tonight, when the mind switches on at rest and starts auditing you, name it out loud, even silently. This is the network, not a real problem to solve right now. You're not stopping the thought. You're refusing the invitation to solve it at midnight. That small label is the first rep. So, an off switch can be trained. We'll get there. But first, why do your goals keep leaving you cold once you reach them? That part is chemical. You have heard dopamine called the pleasure chemical. We call it a dopamine hit, or we call it a dopamine detox. Almost all of that is wrong. And the correction explains something that you have felt for years. The dopamine isn't mainly about pleasure. It's about wanting, about prediction. Researchers recording from dopamine neurons found something precise. The neurons fire for a reward you didn't see coming. So when we get an unexpected reward, dopamine hits. Okay, once a reward becomes fully predictable, they go quiet for the reward itself and start firing earlier and earlier for the cue that predicts it. Dopamine is a teaching signal. It's a learning chemical. Tracks the gap of what you expected and what you really got. So then, a second line of research drew the sharpest line of all. Scientists pull apart wanting, the pull towards something, from liking, the actual pleasure of having it. Take dopamine away in animals and they still like food. The pleasure reactions stay intact. What they lose is the drive to go get it. They'll sit and starve next to food that they still enjoy. Now, put yourself inside that finding. Your whole system is built around wanting. The pursuit, the next target, that's the dopamine engine. And yours is exceptional. It's part of why you have achieved what you have achieved. But wanting and the liking run on different circuits. So you can be world class at chasing, barely trained at enjoying. You hit the goal, you hit goal after goal. The wanting signal goes quiet because the reward is no longer a surprise. And instead of satisfaction, you feel a strange nothingness. So the engine does the only thing it knows. It locks onto the next target. So the chase restarts before you have felt a thing. I know this one from the inside, not from a textbook. For years, I wanted to go to US for psychiatry residency. I pictured San Francisco Bay Area, meeting people in cafes who were building things online, the kind of life that I had read about in Tim Ferriss's book. I took every exam, got the license, put my head down for years to make it real. And when I finally walked into a hospital in Chicago, I felt empty, completely empty. All those years I had been picturing the Bay Area, the cafes, the online life, the digital nomad lifestyle for some reason. Not once had I pictured myself in a hospital. I had been fantasizing about one thing while the actual road was leading somewhere completely different. And you will ask, how is that possible? You were studying for these exams. And there I was in a setting I had never once imagined for myself, seeing the same kinds of patients I had seen in my father's private practice since I was a kid, because my father is also a psychiatrist. I had wanted it badly enough to do all of it, and I had never checked whether I would actually like where it led. That's wanting without liking. And the high performers I sit with live right there. Magnificent at wanting, but starving at liking and enjoying. So, one thing you can do this week. After the next win, before you let the engine grab the next target, stop and ask one question. Did I actually like that? Or did I just want it? In that way, you are training the liking circuit you have left underused. Naming the difference is how you start to feel the wins that you are already earning. Now, if anticipating a reward is this strong, what happens when you anticipate it so vividly that your brain acts like you already have it. And that's the trap. And that's the part that I told you to wait for. And here it is, the single most useful idea in this video. The advice high achievers give themselves more than any other is this: keep your eyes on the prize. See yourself at the finish line and let it pull you. That is the one thing that research says to stop doing on its own. The researcher Gabriel Oettingen ran studies on exactly this. The pattern came back consistent and accountable. The more positively people fantasized about the outcome that they wanted, the less likely they were to actually achieve it. Now, I'm not telling you that visualization is worthless and the science is settled. It isn't, and we don't know the whole picture. What I can tell you is what the studies consistently show, and it cuts against the advice that you have been given. In one set of studies, the more positively people pictured reaching their goal, the lower their measured energy, even physically lower energy and blood pressure. It's as if living in this finished picture lets you off the hook. And now I don't need to work for it. Why? I have felt it. You get the feeling of having arrived. And once your brain has tasted that, the pressure to actually move drops away. Now, see what that means for you in particular. You are not lazy, the opposite. But when the pressure builds, the high achiever's move is to fantasize about the outcome that will finally make it stop. When I hit this number, I will relax. After this exit, I will switch off. You are using the finished picture as a relief, and it's draining the exact drive, the exact calm you were reaching for. So, what works instead? Two changes, both small. First, picture the process, not just the outcome. There's a study where students simulated one of two things. Some pictured the process of studying, sitting down, opening the book, doing the work, being focused, and the others were told to picture the outcome, the great grade, the applause. The ones who pictured the process studied more and did better. The ones who pictured the result did not. I learned this from both sides. When I pictured the finished thing, the money, the milestones, the arrival, I would stall or start and quit. When I pictured the process, myself actually doing the work, going deep, studying, exercising, even enjoying the hard middle of it. When I was seeing myself smiling, even in the hard part, that's when I moved. The shift sounds too small to matter, I know, but it's the whole thing. One version spends the reward before you have earned it. The other keeps you moving. Second, pair the wish with the obstacle. Oettingen's research-backed method gets called WOOP. Wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. You let yourself want the thing. Then you turn and face the real obstacle in the way. Then you write a specific if-then plan. If X happens, then I do Y. That one technique, the if-then plan, has some of the strongest evidence in this whole field for closing the gap between meaning to do something and actually doing it. And here is why it matters for a mind that won't shut off. A brain that already has its if-then plans in place doesn't need to keep running the scenario at midnight. The decision is already made. The loop has somewhere to land. You are handing it a finished answer so it can finally stop. So, clip the whole thing. Don't picture the finish line and wait. Picture the work, name the obstacle, decide in advance exactly what you will do when it shows up. Your micro step here is one sentence only. Take the goal that has been looping in your head and write a single if-then line for the next obstacle that you expect to hit. One sentence on paper does more than an hour of picturing the win. So here's the real chain of events. The moment you stop, a real brain network switches on, the default mode network. In a high performer, doesn't rest, aims your own analytical power at you and loops again and again and again. That's why the mind won't shut off. Hitting the goal keeps feeling like nothing because wanting and enjoying something run on different circuits. And yours is trained to want, not to enjoy. So the chase restarts before you feel a thing. The habit that you trust most, picturing the wind to pull you forward, having your eyes on the prize, quietly drains your drive and your calm. Picture the process. Name the obstacle. Write the if-then plan. Give the loop an answer so it can land, it can stop looping. None of this is a flaw in your character. Okay, all these are mechanisms and they are real and they are running your life. And this high performance system that was never really given an off switch, you have to know that the off switch can be trained. And one last thing before you go, I thought about making this channel in English, talking openly about how the high achieving mind actually works for years. I kept picturing the finished version and never pressed record. What changed wasn't more confidence. It was the exact shift that I described in this video. Stop picturing the outcome, start picturing the process, and let's go. Now, I want one real answer in the comments. Not the win that you are chasing, the process that is underneath. What's one goal where you have been staring at the finish line, and what would picturing the daily work look like instead? Just write one sentence in the comments, I read them all. And if you want to understand your own mind, the way it actually works, calmly, precisely, without the hype, subscribe and stick around. This is the kind of thing that I will keep unpacking here. I'll see you on the next. Bye-bye.